America is not a country that tears families apart. That is why in June, my administration announced new action to keep American families together. That is from President Joe Biden today, calling out the ruling of a federal judge in Texas who sided with 16 Republican-led states that sued to block the program, known as Parole in Place. The program would ease the path to citizenship for hundreds of thousands of people who are living here illegally but are married to U.S. citizens. On Monday, a group of immigrants who stand to benefit from the program, along with their families, filed a motion to join the government in defending it in federal court. One of the immigrants seeking to intervene, Fode Touré, tells NBC News, quote, "It's just absurd to me why Texas would bring a lawsuit that would literally tear my family apart. I've been waiting for over a decade for a program like this, living in a country where you've been paying taxes for years, and yet you have to face the constant fear of being torn from your family and your community. When is that fear going to stop?" Let's bring in Fode Touré. He is a Daca recipient who came to the U.S. at the age of 10 from Sierra Leone and now serves as an assistant DA in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. Also with us, Fode's wife, Jaxiel Touré, an American citizen, and their attorney, an attorney for the Justice Action Center, Brandon Galley-Graves. Fode, it is good to see you again. Thank you so much to you and to Jaxiel for taking the time to be with us. My understanding, Fode, is you were with your son. You were playing ball when you learned about this news.
Yes.
How do you even begin to explain to him what this is going to mean for you, what it's going to mean for your family?
It was devastating. Fortunately, I was playing ball with my son and holding him in my arm. And when I received the call that this program was going to be stopped, I was devastated. I had to put my son down. I went to the bathroom, and my wife immediately knew something was wrong. My wife followed me to the bathroom and told me, "What's wrong?" And I told her that the judge has passed something, and this lawsuit is going to impede our life, our way of being able to move forward with our life and all our plans. It was just heart-wrenching, as it was a gut-wrenching punch, a beacon of hope blocked for my family once again.
Jaxiel, I'm among those who consider Fode to be an American in everything except paperwork. You yourself are an American citizen, and that is what this program is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep American families like yours and Fode together so that your son can have his family unit and not have to worry about someone showing up at your door and fundamentally undermining that family unit. I want to read to you what you have Stephen Miller, one of the architects of the Trump administration family separation policy, saying on social media. A huge win. A huge win. When Stephen Miller is telling you that a policy is a huge win, that should cause most Americans alarm. No, Jaxiel?
100%. To me, it's separating my family. It's breaking my family apart. And how can I live without my husband? How do I raise my son without his father? And to have that fear, that constant fear, because I live with that anxiety of being separated from my husband, that's not something that's easy to live with. And to have someone say that it shows that he's never lived anything like that.
Brandon, help me understand the legalese of this. What are the next steps then to legally defend parole in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Fode and Jaxiel have mentioned, the court has put a temporary, what was called an administrative stay on this program, on this Keeping Families Together parole process. And so for the next 14 days, USCIS can no longer grant applications. It can still receive applications, but USCIS during this time is not allowed to send out approvals. Past those 14 days, we can only speculate what will happen. We're not able to, it's anybody's guess as to what could happen. But for that reason, we've intervened in this case. On behalf of Fode, Jaxiel, and our other 10 interveners, to be able to bring to the court's attention, to show to both Texas, but above all to the court, the life-changing opportunities that this program can make available to them, opportunities to keep their families intact, to realize family unity, maintain safety and stability in the U.S., request employment authorization. For many folks, it'd be the first time that that's a possibility for them. And above all, to build their families and futures without fear that removal will tear it all away.
I mean, Basil, it is such a stark contrast to what you were hearing from ex-President Trump, where he wants to have a deportation force that rounds up people who've lived in the United States, perhaps most of their lives, who've built families and business here, and deport them to a country they may not know and they may not speak the language.
And I just remember the Kamala Harris campaign some weeks ago, one of their commercials talking about how she worked at McDonald's when she was in college. And I remember my dad worked at McDonald's when he came to this country from Jamaica on Queens Boulevard. And my mother worked at a typing pool in the Empire State Building at the Host Pajama Company. I don't even know if that's around anymore. But I always remember, at least my dad, talking a lot about how Catholic Charities really helped them be here, get acclimated here. Look, their son is on national TV. This is what this country's supposed to be about. And to hear how administratively, legally, and rhetorically these families are being pulled apart with no real solution in sight. I didn't grow up thinking that was what this country was supposed to be about, but it is rooted in the language and the policies of Donald Trump.
It's just so deeply immoral. And I have to say that moment, you mentioned the moment with the deportation signs at the RNC was absolutely chilling. I mean, it was gut-wrenching to watch people cheering for tearing families apart in this way. And, some of us really remember the horror of these family separations. There are still children who have never been reunited with their families since the Trump's family separation policy. And, for Stephen Miller, once again, to sort of celebrate other people's misery and suffering, I think really tells you everything you need to know. It's one thing to find a new legal framework. We need desperately immigration reform. But to sacrifice, the long-term stability for millions of families for policy is just, it's immoral. There's no other word for it.
But I have about 30 seconds left, but I do want to give you the last word. What do you say to these 16 Republican attorneys general who want to block this?
This is not just an attack on undocumented people. This is an attack on U.S. citizens. My wife is a U.S. citizen. My son is a U.S. citizen. All her family members are U.S. citizens. My wife's brother is currently fighting for this country as a Marine. So the fact that even though he's fighting for other people, for our freedom, my wife and I are still fighting for our freedom right here at home from being torn apart is just devastating. This lawsuit is an attack on U.S. citizens as well.
Fode Toure, I am always very grateful for your time. Thank you for bringing Jack Seale this time, and Brendan Galley Graves. Thank you, all three of you. And my thanks today to Lauren Leader and to Basil Smikle.